I'm Bill.
And I'm Candace.
And we're the Disruptors.
Well, I'm so glad that you finally made it, Bill.
I've been here all day.
I don't think so.
I do. I've been here all day. You're the one that's been gone.
You know, I've been busy. I've actually been out here changing lives.
Oh, changing
Shifting
lives.
the universe.
Shifting, how do you spell that? Shifting. This is a G-rated show. Yeah. You notice how the guest immediately put his hands up.
That's it.
Put your gun down. We're not going to rob him.
Well, I do have a carry
permit.
We've
got to let this one go.
Why?
Well, the last two didn't have nothing but credit cards, so you didn't do well at that.
Actually,
no, we didn't.
No.
He might be a good one to keep.
Oh, well, that's true.
I think we should keep it.
Should keep him. Okay. Well, why don't you introduce to whom we're speaking about?
Well, we actually have the honor and the privilege, which we do think often that it's a privilege talking to those in our community that are actually empowering our businesses to expand and to grow, and the services that can actually affect their bottom line. So we have the magnificent, the marvelous paul-liddane, who is the Vice President of Sales for Complete Merchant Services. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today, guys.
Yes, it's great to have somebody in the business world.
Bill needs help with his merchant services.
Well, there's not much we're going to be able to do for Bill today.
You can tell that already, right?
Chances are nothing at this moment, yeah. Yeah, I can see that this is not going to be my show, but go ahead.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company.
Great. So let's see here. I've been in the small business arena most of my life. I've been a serial business owner all the way from a construction company to owning a nightclub in Seattle to owning an automotive machine shop.
A nightclub.
See, we love him already.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little colorful, so we'll try and keep that part to a dead roar today.
Yeah, okay. Machine shop. Yes. Notice how we stepped it up a little there.
Yeah, right at the end.
Jumped into the machine shop. Okay.
Got straight greasy. So my family, my aunt and uncle, started merchantservice.com back in 1995 here in Seattle, Washington. We moved it to Florida in 2001. Apparently, it's a little more business-friendly and tax-friendly than the great state of Washington.
Yeah, shocking.
No, I can't believe that.
Just shocking.
That is just absolutely shocking. Unbelievable.
I didn't say anything.
That's okay, we did.
I hope the governor's listening, but no, go ahead.
So since then, we've grown into 8 companies. We're nationwide, and we're direct with First Data. First Data is the largest credit card processor in the world. 51% of all credit cards are processed by First Data. So
wow.
Just like ourselves, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, KeyBank, SunTrust, and many other major banks all go through First Data as well. The only difference between us and them is that we don't have their overhead, and we like to focus on the small business owner.
Oh, well, that makes a big difference.
That means you
and
me.
Yeah, good, Brian. That's
okay,
good.
I know. I had to.
You notice we didn't include Candace on the side?
Well, since we are one flesh, that includes her, so.
Oh, boy, you are really buttery.
Know your place, Bill. Know your place.
Yeah. Wow.
This is one big biscuit going on.
Yeah.
Boy, you have no idea.
Holy smokes, and they're using real butter. But now moving on.
Well, merchant services really affect our bottom line as business owners. And I think it's something that often people, business owners get busy and they overlook.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things that's if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
Sure.
Right, so as a small business owner, you first get into business and you have to set up all of these things. You've got to get Comcast, you've got to get insurance, you've got to get employees, you've got to build manuals, you've got to get credit card processing, you've got to do a number of things. And there's a lot of work to be done to get all of those things done. And so then once you get something set up, if it isn't broken, you're not trying to fix it.
Sure.
The problem is that a lot of times, unfortunately, with our industry and like many other industries, if you really don't know, depending on who helps set you up, they may not have done you the best favors. So I kind of look at it as like auto insurance. Every year to 2 years, you should go back, review your account, and just make sure you're being treated fairly, right? It was really interesting when my aunt and uncle first started the company. They used to say, look, we would sell merchant services with the fact that if you're looking to increase your sales and grow your business, you want to add credit card processing because that allows people more opportunities to spend with you. Today, now, 23 years later, If you're not accepting credit cards, you're actually not able to do business half the time
And that's
because
the
Yes.
truth.
our banking industry has really pushed and our government has pushed to eliminate the use of cash and use debit and credit cards. So it's become very prominent now.
Dead presidents on cotton.
Are disappearing.
We hate that too.
And
Yeah,
it's a whole
actually.
change. Everybody now has either a debit card or a credit card or some sort of a card, and not a wallet full of ones or 20s anymore.
So, what is it about merchant services? I realize it's an unregulated but regulated type of a industry, and there's no real formula as to how much of a percentage rate is charged. They just kind of charge according to all the different cards and their different standards. And how do you go through all that?
Well, that's a great question, and you have a couple of different questions inside of it. So one, the credit card industry is completely regulated. It follows FDIC, regulated by the banks, or federal government regulates the banks on what they can do. Now, as of, probably a good 15 plus years ago, we now have private corporations in the game, meaning PayPal, Stripe, Square, which I'm sure most people have heard of. And those particular companies they don't have to necessarily follow 100% banking regulations.
Okay.
Right? And the rules work just a little bit different for them. To kind of answer that question a little bit. As far as fees being charged, it's one of those interesting products, kind of like the credit card companies themselves. I don't think anyone really understands how the credit card companies work and how they do that.
I totally agree with that statement because they made it confusing.
Yes.
Deliberately.
Yes, intentionally, so that you get in and you start asking questions, and then you're like, okay, that's it. Just what's the bottom line?
Right, and to be honest, most business owners, at the end of the day, when you have limited time each day to do your work and do your job and really focus on what you do to close your sales, that's all you want to know is the bottom line. And we don't look at all the stuff in the middle. Probably one of the biggest things that most business owners aren't aware about today is the difference between debit cards and credit cards and what that really means to them. So if it's okay, I'd like to
Absolutely.
Sure, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Yes.
So debit cards, as most of us know, it's attached to our checking account just like a checkbook, right? And we use it like we're going to write a check, but we just do it for a debit card. So now when you're part of the regular FDIC insured, so let me say like if you're working with First Data like us or any one of the regular banks, then as of 2010, when we had our global meltdown, Frank Dodd legislation came through, and one of the things inside the Frank Dodd legislation was regulating how much the banks could charge for accepting debit cards. So the actual real cost of a debit card, at the end of the day, it costs 22 cents. That's what the bank is allowed to charge. It's 22 cents per transaction. Whatever the discount rate that was given by like someone like me, whoever sets you up with your merchant account, in my case, most of the time that's 8 cents, which puts you at 30 cents. And then it's times 0.05% for the total transaction. So if you're running a $100 transaction, it's costing you less than 35 cents is what it should cost with a debit card. Because it's really, at the end of the day, it is almost a cash transaction. It's just electronically transferring the money. Okay? When you go over and when you go over to the credit card side of the world, okay, there are, for Visa and MasterCard, there's about 1,200 different Visa and MasterCard credit cards out there, issued by all sorts of different banks.
Only 1,200.
Only 1,200, and I only have 1,199 of them. But go ahead.
No air miles for you, mister.
No, I'm walking.
No going to Disneyland. I'm sorry, you just didn't get the Disneyland one. And, out of all of them, one of my favorites happens to be the Alaska Airlines card by Bank of America. It's not that I'm a big component of Bank of America, but I like Alaska Airlines. And what's very interesting about that card, for a tangent side note, is that if Bank of America was to cut off your credit card and take it away from you, your miles are with Alaska Airlines. So you don't lose your miles. Unlike if you had an American Express card, where if they canceled your card, you'd lose all your miles.
Oh.
So one of the reasons why I like that particular card. Now, with that particular card, the actual wholesale rate, like we were talking about the 22 cents and the 0.05% of the transaction for debit cards, The wholesale rate is 1.9%, and then whatever your discount rate is. So that comes out to average just barely over 2%. Okay, so for most small businesses that are a storefront, that are swiping cards, your overall merchant cost a month should bring you somewhere around 1.7 to 2.2% based on how much debit versus credit cards you are processing, right? And then do you have any keyed in where you key the number in versus swiping them? And both of those make a difference on how your pricing goes.
So what has been your favorite story over the years that you've been doing this?
Favorite story? Favorite story in which regard?
Just helping a business out.
So I do. I have one. It was also my greatest savings story as well. So back when I used to own my automotive machine shop, I have a lot of automotive shops that were my clients. And this particular automotive shop, I'd been doing work for them for about 5 years before we closed down that business. And it was very interesting because I walk in one day and I say hello and he says, "Hey, Paul, how you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing merchant services." And he looks at me and goes, "I'm so sorry."
I'm so
Right?
sorry.
Right?
And then I get it because most people don't want to talk to sales guys and don't want to hear what they have to say. And I said, "Hey, it's so great. I completely understand it." I said, "But you know what? If you would like, I just stopped by to just make sure you're being treated fairly. We worked together for so long. I thought I'd come and see how you're being treated." And so this particular gentleman processes about $60,000 a month.
Wow.
Right? So that's pretty decent volume.
That
right?
is.
It's
And
$59,999.99 more than Bill.
My CPA will be calling you.
Yeah.
So we take a look at his statement. We do a quick breakdown, and the easiest way to know if you're being treated fairly or not is that if you take your merchant statement and you look at the total amount of fees being charged and then the total amount that you process, if you take and in his case, on this particular month, he was charged a little over $3,200
Wow.
for processing $59,000 worth of transactions.
Wow.
Right? So if we had an actual calculator and we pulled it out, which I can't find my phone and I would do, we would take that $3,200 and we'd divide the $59,000 into it, and that's going to give us a decimal point number. And if you move the decimal point 2 places to the right, that will give us a percentage number. And if I remember correctly, it was somewhere around 5.3 or 5.8%, but it's been quite a while since I did the math on that, which is an awful lot considering he's a storefront business that is swiping credit cards, not keying them in to cost him 5 point whatever it was percent. One of the things that I did is that I had a very point blank conversation with him about what I charged up front before I ever looked at his statement.
Nice.
And so he was being charged he was a Bank of America client, and he was being charged, so he was a Bank of America client, and they were charging him 1.85% above his interchange cost, the true wholesale cost. So what does that mean? That means that, let's say hypothetically we were using that 1.9% Alaska Airlines card.
Right.
Then you would turn around and add 1.5% on top of that.
Holy smokes.
And that would be your fee or cost for processing or accepting that one card. The reality was that I told him that my discount rate was 0.20 or 1/5 of 1% above the true cost. So he went from 1.85% a month down to 0.20.
Wow.
And it ended up, he now at his 59, 60,000, which he's consistently at, it costs him about $1,100 a month.
$1,100.
$1,100. He saved a little over $2,000 a month over a year. That's a half of an employee for him.
It's a nice bit of profit.
That is.
And he laughed at me when I walked in the door.
He laughed at you.
And then I got done and I said, "Great, where are we going on vacation?"
Yeah, right. Yeah, I understand that for sure. He didn't have a heart attack or anything, did he?
I don't know. If he did, he didn't do it in front of me.
Oh, okay.
But you could see the embarrassment on his face.
Well, that's true.
And
but nobody knows exactly how that industry operates. They have no idea. But we all know, as merchants, we've got to have a way of swiping a card or taking plastic. So it's a